Like family can be chosen. Like you have your family. You have your family, your people you grow up with and everything, but along the way you find people who you really connect with. You choose them and they choose you and everything. Because the family that you're born into, I'm not saying there isn't massive value in making everything work with your family that you possibly can. I'm just saying that, like, sometimes look, they're your first crack at, like, relationships. Do you know what I mean? Like with most people, especially with the big family, if you line them up together, you'd be like, all right, if y'all didn't already know each other, I'm not sure you'd be hanging out. Like, I got cousins that I love dearly, but, like, I don't know. They're like athletic. And then I show up with a Rubik's Cube, but they're like, very cool, very cool. Yeah, you can tell somebody's not into what you're into when they talk to you all slow like that. When they're like, that's awesome, but that is fantastic. I like that you are into that. Wow. Oh, I've been hit with wows in my life. Sometimes you get someone that even if you weren't related, if y'all had met, you would have linked up perfect, like understand each other. That real bond, right? And you have the benefit of actually being family, so you get even more time with this person. Like I look at, tell you about Nikki. Nikki was a kid back down south, very big kid, but not like big, just tall. I say big, but I mean tall. He was too tall. He was too tall of a person. It was too much. It was like cartoonishly tall. He was that type of tall where everybody asked him if he played basketball. You know that? You know that type of, like, I mean, you're just so, do you just love playing basketball? As if it's a requirement to stay that tall. That you gotta start putting in hoop time if you're gonna stay this tall. It's such a funny question. I've never been asked if I play basketball for my height. It's just such a funny question because I can imagine what's going through the mind of a tall person when they're getting that question because it's such a thirsty question from a short person. They're like, do you play? You must. Like you have to. Like you need this. I need this. I need you to play. Why can't just do it? I feel like that desperation is because you know that they could touch it. It's like you could touch the rim so easy. You have to touch it for both of us. You have to play. I don't know what the rim feels like. Just please play. I need this. But Nikki was tall, but he was as tall as he was clumsy. He was that type of person you would ask to grab something from the top shelf for you, and then as he's grabbing it, you know, he's got the height, but he didn't have the grip. So he really just knocks something down off onto your head. You about to thank him too. You looking up. Thank you so much. And so him playing basketball was a disaster. He was very clumsy. And it was insane to watch. Like, I give him a little bit of grace because, like, when he would dribble, the ball did take too long to get back. Like, that's not all his fault. When I dribble, I'm right here. It's a frequent visitor, right? But when he would dribble, it'd just take forever to come back up, and by then he had already run away. Like, He could do that thing, though. He could do that thing where he could palm the ball. That was wild to watch. Just watch him grab the ball and hold it up like, look like a magic trick of being tall. And he was always getting like, truly just like smoked on the court. Like even his handles were terrible. You know, he tried to put it through his leg. It would hit his elbow on the other side. Never knew how much pressure to apply to the dribble. So instead of being over here, one, he's over here watching it fly away. And there was one day, I don't know what got into him, but there was one day he was making a drive for that net. You know, he wanted to, I guess, show off for somebody. And so he's running down the court, clearly traveling. There's no way he was ever gonna. And he's over here with, you know, got both hands on the ball, got the elbow out when people get close, you know, the weapons. And then this dude jumps for a dunk. He goes to dunk, and on top of being uncoordinated, on top of being a true waste of height, this young man has no strength in his ankles or calves. So when he jumps for the dunk and he flies forward, there's someone guarding him. And I think even that guy thought he was gonna fly over. Cause look, he didn't do a simple like jump up, you know, efficient dunk. He fully leg spread NBA logo. The problem is he's either pushed or made everybody else get out of the way up until this last person, this guy trying to finish just standing there, right? And because he got no air, because he jumped the height of his own shins, he simply flies into this man. He jumped into him. I've never seen a person jump into another person. Like he jumped into him like he thought he would go through and it like he thought he would be him. He jumped. This guy's got his arms out and he jumped into him like it was the end of a war. Like they were finally reunited. This man, holding the ball in the air, just jumps forward, flies into this dude, and never in the history of street ball, I don't think anyone's ever seen anything happen like this. This man probably expected Nicky to fly over him, but when he just sort of kept coming forward at the height, basically the height he was already at, but with his legs spread. Never in the history of basketball on a public court has this happened. He flew in just trying to dunk, and then this man caught him. I need to show you then. He caught him. Caught him into his arms. Didn't fall backwards or anything, just straight up caught him because Nicky started jumping too far away, so he didn't have the momentum to knock somebody down. And then Nicky, this fool, still dunked. Still dunks. And then had the nerve to let go of the rim. Putting all his weight back into this man's arms. craziest part about it, he was still talking trash the whole time. He's still being held midair, talking crazy to everybody on the court. This man is up here. That's right, this is my house. Y'all get out the kitchen because I'm cooking right now. Can't nobody touch me. Sir, someone is touching you right now. So uncomfortable. And you know, Nicky was tall. He wasn't big or anything, but he was big enough to recognize that he was bigger than the people around him. And so he was somebody who truly fit that stereotype of like gentle giant, like didn't want to hurt anybody, didn't want to mess with anybody. In fact, his need to be gentle actually made him pretty easy to bully. Kids that were way smaller than him would give him a hard time, you know? And there was, I'm sure, a bit of a fear taken up for himself because, you know, he didn't know what could happen. And so Nicky, very sweet, very easy to bully. You didn't have to worry about Nicky. You had to worry about his sister. His sister, first of all, his sister, not tall at all. Nicky got all the height in the family. But his sister would see somebody messing with Nicky, and she would come out of nowhere. Truly nowhere. There was this one time that this kid was pushing Nicky around, right? And then finally, Nicky had enough, and he pushed this other kid back, right? But then that kid, you know, when somebody's bigger than you, you figure they can take whatever. This kid runs back up, pushes him down as hard as he can. Nicky falls to the ground. We don't know where his sister came from. We don't know where she just came running. I need to be clear how we didn't know where she came from because she didn't go to the same school. So when did you start running? Running. Then jumps in the air. We all give credit for that Sparta kick to the movie 300. But I had seen it years before. She got a running start, it jumped up in the air, and then foot first walked up this kid. Remember the movie Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, where they just sort of kick, and they never came down? Yeah. Oh. It is tough when you move out on your own for the first time and you're broke, but you're also young. Like, I had the benefit of being young and broke, so I didn't even realize how broke I was. I wasn't even aware it could not be like this. Because, you know, there's a different mindset. I can only speak for myself, but it seems like there was just a different mindset at the time for the sort of standards of my mom's house versus like what mine would be, because I was out on my own for the first time, so I was sort of setting them in real time, like setting these parameters. When you're out by yourself for the first time and you get your first place, this little studio apartment in Chicago, it's like anything. You could do anything, you know? You could put up both Fight Club posters. You could do whatever. You could get the main one and the variant right next to it. There's nobody to stop you. You know, I had an air mattress and everything. Just starting out, and so there are some things that I think other people would have clicked right away. we should do something about it. It just didn't happen for me. Not in my head right away. Like, for instance, when I would have somebody over and my fridge worked, but it didn't work hard. Like my fridge would do the fridge things, but just not all the things a fridge is supposed to do. I'd have somebody over, and then I'd offer them something to drink. I'd grab them something to drink, and I knew the cold spots of the fridge because the whole fridge wasn't cold, right? There were some, like the crisper was crispy. The crisper was perfect. Anything you really wanted to keep, you put in the crisper. But other stuff, you just had to be like, well, that's just a regular shelf. That's basically a cabinet shelf. And so I remember there was this one time that invited somebody over, poured them a drink, and then they asked for some ice, and I was like, okay. So my freezer doesn't make ice, like it doesn't. And what I meant was like my freezer didn't get cold. Like my freezer was actually hot. Like I don't know what coil was switched, but the top was hot. A regular fridge was fridge, but this over here was basically a microwave. And so I was like, oh yeah, it doesn't make ice in there. And they were like, oh, okay, do you have an ice tray? Let's just pour some water. Well, I don't mind waiting. And I was like, oh, you thought I meant I didn't have an ice maker. Okay, so what I'm saying is that like it won't exist in there. Like it's too hot. Like that's why I don't have anything but bread in there, because it's very warm. And they weren't being rude, but they just sort of said it, I guess, as they were thinking it. They were like, you can't afford ice? And when somebody points something out to you like that, it does remind you where you are when you can't afford just certain temperatures. That's a level of broke. That's a breakthrough of broke, to not be able to afford enough coal near you. And so when you're in a situation like that, just like when I was on my own and was sort of getting my bearings around being out in the world and what things I needed to fix first, because I still need a bed. I finally got a bed. And when I got that bed, okay, first of all, got the bed off Craigslist, so don't. The frame. I say whole bed as if it's a whole bed because, if you just got a mattress on the floor, that's a mattress on the floor. You can't call that a bed. So I got my bed frame off Craigslist and then, bought a mattress and everything. That took some saving. For a little while, the air mattress was on the bed frame. Because if you did look too fast, it looked regular. But that bed frame, man, no wonder they were getting rid of it. Every time you sat down, you felt like you were hurting it. The entire time I had that bed frame, I'd be in my head thinking, like, why does my bed's back hurt so much? And every creak is just, it just sounds like you don't have your life together. You sit down after a long day of work and you hear, How am I gonna get any restful sleep with you complaining the entire night? I'd move my leg and the bed would do everything except scream. But when you're in a situation like that, and let's say you're even younger, let's say you're like Nikki and his sister, especially in the neighborhood that they were in. There's a lot of things coming at you, maybe faster than you know how to process. You know, you're in a neighborhood where there's gangs, where there's gang violence, and obviously after the fact, people ask themselves, why would anybody join a gang? You know, why would anybody get involved? And it's a question that's more important to ask before anything happens. You know, after these decisions have been made, it's very easy to just be flippant about it. Why would anybody? Maybe this is somebody who's been beat up their entire life. The only time they don't get beat up is when they're with these people. For better or for worse, you know. Maybe these people aren't the best to have around, but at least I'm somewhat safe. It's a different type of danger hanging out with them. There's a present danger I know by being alone. You know? Maybe there's some sense of this is the only way I'm going to be able to make some money. These guys already know a way. These guys always have money on them. You know, there's a false perception that maybe this is the way. You know, they put a gun in your hand. I'm sure you feel powerful. They tell you run the block. I'm sure you feel powerful. It's not until something actually stops you that you realize you're not all powerful. Like you look at a kid like Nikki, and you know, it's not like it is in the TV shows all the time, where there's just somebody seeking out, oh, that guy looks cool, I'll follow him around, maybe he'll let me join or something. Some people are coerced, some people are threatened. You know, you live here, you see us doing work, maybe it's time for you to do some work. They recruit them. That's the thing that people leave out. They recruit them, you know? And so maybe a kid like Nikki sees, though, this isn't it. I don't know what is, but this can't do this. So then a kid who almost never takes up for himself, a kid who's very gentle, although he's very tall, waste of tall, not using the tall right at all, but that's beside the point. A kid like Nikki gets approached, tells them, no, I'm good. I don't want to do this. I just live here. I'm not. And then it's his sister, of all people. It's his sister that also looks him in the face. Don't talk to my brother. You leave him alone. Right? Don't come near him. And when you're dealing with a gang, you're not dealing with a lot of reason behind decisions. But this kid who's known for being soft, telling you no like that to your face, and his sister backing him right up every time she sees you all around him, that won't do. You tell them no even after they start messing with you. And then it's someone like your sister that takes up for you. It's someone like your sister that tells them to their face, not as big as you, not as scary. You leave my brother alone. It takes a lot of bravery to do something like that. You leave my brother alone, knowing how dangerous they are. And then, maybe, one day, they decide to send some sort of message, right? They pass your house, and they shoot at your house. But you're not home. Your sister's home, though. And those bullets that may have even been meant for you, whether they were meant to send a message or they were meant for you, they don't hit you. You're not there. They hit your sister. They took your sister. Do you see how a gang works? They'll take everything that they can as long as you let them. They'll do whatever they like as long as they feel like nobody can stop them. You know? I'll back up real quick. Being out on your own and broke, you have to decide what professionals you're going to spend your money on, because all the professionals you can't afford. So sometimes you got to go to a professional who says they're professional and doesn't feel very professional. Like, for instance, I require some things from a professional. Like, some of it may have nothing to do with their capabilities at their job. They're just things that make me uncomfortable. Like, I don't like when my professionals in some fields take cash. That makes me nervous. If you go to the doctor and you get done and they don't ask you about insurance or anything, they're like, all right, it's gonna be $250, so you can do 10s and 5s. I could break 100 if you need change. Some things you just want to have taken care of ahead of time so you can just enjoy the experience of being in the presence of a professional. I don't want my pilot to take cash. What if I don't have cash on me? Even like the nonverbals sometimes. Sometimes a professional will let their feelings escape, right? They won't be very professional. Just let it out as it happens. That is very jarring. It's terrifying. I don't ever want that to happen. Imagine you in court. You're in court, and then the prosecutor says something, and then your lawyer turns to you and goes, "What's wrong with you? Everybody heard that. You couldn't keep that in?" No, because you know what it is whenever people, they're supposed to be professional, emote like that, it lets you know that they also don't know what's supposed to happen. Now we're living in chaos. Do you know what I mean? If the people who are supposed to know don't know, if the people who were supposed to act some sort of way don't know how to act that way, now we're in chaos. Like, now we're in chaos. Like, now we're in chaos. And I remember one of the earlier times I felt like this was with my dad. I was in the car with my dad, and we got a flat tire. And he went to the trunk, grabbed the spare, changed the tire, and then the car wouldn't start. I'm not saying at 7 years old I knew how to change a tire. I was just confused why, after changing this tire, the car as a whole gave up. The car that was running before, and then you changed the tire. Here's the thing, I'm not a mechanic, not an engineer, but I look at tires like shoes. And if somebody's shoe fell off or wore down to the point they need another shoe, and then you gave them that shoe, and then they were like, "Oh, I don't walk anymore." I think you would be confused. I think it's fair that I was confused. I was like, all the wheels good. Maybe try it again. He's over here. Nothing, you know. So then he had to go into a store, find a phone, because this is, you know, I'm like a 90s baby. I didn't have a cell phone for a long time. My dad didn't have a cell phone for a while. He had to go into a store and ask to use their phone to make a very embarrassing phone call. Call whoever he called to be like, yeah, I changed the tire. And now my car doesn't want to be a car anymore. And I remember I asked him, like, what are we gonna do, Dad? And in a moment of honesty, because to be fair, your parents are your parents. They're not professionals. They should be allowed to be human, you know? But I asked him, what are you gonna do, Dad? And he was like, I don't know, son. And I know I was little, but even looking back, I had too strong of a reaction. I was like, you don't know! That was a little too much. But in my mind, in my like little bit of life experience, I was like, we are stranded here then. What do you mean you don't know? And then someone came and they gave my dad a jump. Now, this is the first one I had ever seen. And once again, me being a kid, I didn't say it out loud, but in my head, I was like, that's not gonna work. Y'all just doing stuff now. Like this. Oh, we're gonna put the wire in the wire and and then it did work. And when it worked, to my credit, I was like, man, my dad's a genius. Who would even thought you just wire up to another car and it'll be a car again? But yeah, that feels like where we are, where, do you know what I mean? Where there are people that are supposed to know, who even say that they know, but when they start telling you what they know, you realize they don't know anything. And that's very scary. That's terrifying. Sometimes I don't even know what press conference I'm watching and what it's about. I watched this, it was a press conference where there was a press conference where Marco Rubio wrote something down and slid it to Trump. And like, I don't know, man, I've never seen somebody so locked in to being evil and so checked out of life. Because this dude gets slid the note, and then there's no way Trump has an internal monologue. We must know every thought that comes through his head. Because Marco Rubio went ahead and passed him the note, and then he says out loud, you know, okay, do you remember in English class when your teacher made you like read Shakespeare, but then somebody in the class had to also read the stage direction just so everybody would know where we were at? Things that should clearly be in his head get spoken out loud. This this dude gets slid the note and then says out loud, Marco Rubio just passed me a note. You gotta watch the video from the specific angle I'm talking about because it exists. I saw it when it happened, but the other angle that's like centered on Trump doesn't do it justice. There's an angle that's like to the right of Trump, there's a camera, and you see when Trump says Marco Rubio just passed me a note, you see Marco Rubio go, and then Trump reads the note out loud for everyone. And that's, once again, maybe something he meant to do in his head and his mouth never stopped. Because then he's like, it says Chevron. Go back to Chevron. He read the note out loud. At a press conference, I'm assuming, where they're talking about oil, and doesn't seem to know what this note means. Go back to go back to Chevron. All right. I'm surprised he didn't just keep talking. Like, go back to Chevron. Oh, I've never worked there. Interesting. Okay. Like, he so clearly did everything that should have been in his head. I'm surprised this man didn't grab the note. Marco Rubio just passed me a note, bend arm. It says, go back to Chevron. What does that mean, turnhead? And look, I don't even know if this is the same press conference because this is a different clip. There was a point where I don't know if Trump was talking or somebody else was talking or if he was being asked a question, but he just got up from the table and looked out the door. This man over just, yeah, you know. Wow. That's gonna be the entrance to the ballroom. Sir, if you don't sit your Biden-built brain down, this is everything you said about Biden. Everything you doing right now. Every ounce of it was supposed to be what Joe Biden was like. This man tried to bully Joe Biden the entire campaign with the fact that the auto pen, the famous auto pen, he doesn't know what's going on. Somebody else is running the White House. It's like, all right, look, for all of his faults, Biden was never passed a note. He was never passed a note. It was like, Vice President Harris just passed me a note. No, it's insanity. No, it's so wild. Especially because we're how. It all just feels especially insane that how this dementia is affecting all of us. Do you know what I mean? Like I've had people in my life that I love dearly have dementia, and it affected the family, not the country. Not, you know what I mean? If your great uncle starts grabbing the remote control for the TV and pressing buttons and putting it to his ear, that doesn't affect Greenland. You know? It's just, I don't know. Sometimes you just want to get the message out. Thank God the internet, for now at least, is like viewable by people from other countries that aren't here, because they can see us also be like, no, every day we wake up, and if you have a smartphone, you probably have your notifications on. Which is not, is maybe wait. The stuff will be there eventually. You shouldn't wake up to the news. Give yourself a minute. Do you know what I mean? Because like you wake up and then you open your phone and there's all the headlines because the publications were working while you were sleeping, and they have a list ready to go of things to give you Marco Rubio face. There's a big flaw we have now in that the news by headline is like in your phone. It just hits your phone like that. You gotta turn your notifications off sometimes just for the sake of your mind, because I was checking the time. I just wanted to know the time. And now, uh-oh. Well, oh no, I was gonna travel. Looks like we're not friends with anybody anymore. It's devastating, you know? And then you see things like you see what happened in Minneapolis. Yeah. You see everything that happened, and it is, it's sad and fascinating that no matter how many angles come out, no matter what people are watching, no one's really changing their position. And I think one of the main reasons is that there are many people that are trying to argue the legality, and everyone else is trying to argue the morality, you know? We're not speaking the same language about these things, which is one of the main reasons we're not getting anywhere. And I think that, look, if your entire moral compass is based on what the laws are currently at the time, I think that's a very weak compass, because all of the good that has ever come to this country and to people in general was through change. It was through adjustment. It was through figuring out what met the moment the best, you know? There's no, to me at least, there's very little good in just saying, well, that is the way it is. It's like, that's not enough. Every benefit to your life, every single benefit to your life came through some sort of change. The powers that be weren't just waking up one day and then thinking, oh, well, we probably should do a little better. Sadly, that's not how that sort of like arc of justice bends. It usually bends with pressure, you know? Trust me when I tell you that J.D. Rockefeller or, you know, Carnegie, any of these robber barons, they weren't laid up at night figuring out how to start a union. You know? All these things come with time. You know, you can make whatever legal argument you want to make. That is not what people are not arguing for some sort of like Section 3, Article 5 of some. They saw the video. You saw the video. And I personally think one of the reasons to argue the legality or to make the status quo your moral compass is because you're either not affected or you think that if you play ball, it won't come for you. It won't affect you, you know? And that's just not the case. Now we are where we are because they needed something. They passed this bill that is going to really devastate a lot of people. You know what I mean? They passed it a while ago and they're hoping you don't remember. In fact, they're looking for something. They need something new. It can't be the old stuff because they said they fixed all the old stuff, right? So they need something new. You know, they passed this bill that lets AI companies off the hook, that rolls back a bunch of environmental protections, that slashes your health care, and they need something new, which is why they landed on Somali daycare fraud. No, you know Somali daycare fraud, the most lucrative fraud of all time. It is the fraud that... It's honestly the fraud that the world turns on the axis of. It is the most prevalent fraud that has ever existed. If only Walter White had known about Somali daycare fraud, it would have been a very different show. No, they need something new because they're hoping that you'll forget that they can't actually, and they don't have plans to, and the things that it would take they're not willing to do to improve your life. They're not going to do it, you know? They're all in the same pool, so they're not going to tax their friends, you know? So what can they do? Well, they can't improve your life. They can't do it, but they can make everybody else's life miserable. Like they could make everyone else's life worse, and then that's equality. Yeah. It's like when you're it's like when you're dating somebody that sucks, and then they are like, yeah, but other people suck too. You'll sit them down and tell them everything that you feel like they are doing wrong in the relationship, and they're like, everybody does that though. Like if it's not me, it's just gonna be somebody else forgetting your birthday. That's gonna happen. Because you see what happened, and you see how panic they genuinely were. You know, they sent these guys out. I hate to burst anyone's bubble, but as a country, we are like broke. You know what I mean? We are like, because their bill also adds to the deficit. And we're very broke. And not the government, I should be clear. The people. Like the people. I know people think it's the same thing. But people from other countries, just so you know, it's not the same thing. The country, as in the government, is doing fine. They just found a bunch of oil. It's the people. It's the people who are struggling. It's the people whose groceries prices and whose healthcare costs are skyrocketing. It's the people who have less to show for the work that they do. And it's the people losing their jobs, getting their government jobs slashed and getting let go from companies and everything. And so they need something. We can't afford, in the bill, $29 billion for ICE. We cannot afford ICE any more than I could afford ICE. I can't believe $29 billion. I mean, but this is my thing, I guess, is that you watch something like what's happening in Minneapolis, because it's not just one instance, it's not just one thing, you know? Because the same day that Renee Good lost her life, a high school in Minneapolis was pretty much just attacked by ICE, like pepper spray. They pepper sprayed kids, you know? You look at what happened in Chicago. They pulled kids out. They pulled all these people out of this building. It was just a show of force. It doesn't look like there were really any convictions out of that. It was pure harassment, you know? People talk about comply. People talk about what is legal, but really think about what's moral, you know? I'll tell you right now, if you just sort of go with the flow, you go with the status quo, you just simply comply over and over again, you know, nothing really changes. Not a single thing. Because once again, the people who have everything don't really think about breaking you off a piece. That's just not how it works, you know? They weren't up at night figuring out, oh, you know, maybe a minimum wage would be good. You know? I'll tell you right now, if all you do is comply, if all you do is hope that things change or get better, but you go along with everything as it stands, it doesn't happen. If everyone that came before me had just complied, then I probably would have entered this theater, any theater, through a colored section. You know, every good thing you have in your life is a product of someone else's struggle. You know? You see everything that's happening. And it's not about what they say it's about. You know? People talk about coming over the right way, doing it the right way and everything. Meanwhile, the people that say that don't even actually know what the right way is. Not top to bottom. The people trying to do it know. But they don't even understand the significance of yanking people out of a hearing that's their immigration hearing that they showed up to do it the right way. You know, you're just jamming people up for the sake of doing it. Now, be clear here. It is not about Somali daycare fraud. Even the narrative building, even what happens next. Then the president makes a statement. There's no way he saw the video. I'm not even saying that because I think that there's some like moral core to. I'm saying that because what he said He was like, this officer was run over. He's lucky to be alive. She ran right over him. I mean, he basically exploded. And he had the wherewithal to put himself back together again. Reconstitute his body. Amazing stuff. No, you see how they paint this person immediately. You know, they need their narrative more than anything, because if the narrative falls apart, then everything is exposed. And if it's all exposed, you start to blame who's worth blaming. It's never been more important to know all of your rights, to know all of them. And you know, it's never been more important to know the difference between a judicial warrant and an ICE warrant. Like, a judicial warrant is something signed by a judge, and the judge signs it, and it means they can come in. Because the judge wrote the thing, we need to go get you. And a lot of times when they have a judicial warrant, they don't even knock. They just sort of come in. It's not really up for discussion. An ICE warrant is a thing that ICE wrote, that they may show you, and it may even be part of narratives that happen for the future, where, well, they had a warrant. Which warrant? It's important to know, because ICE having a warrant is like me writing myself a sick note. You know what I mean? I've done it many times. I've had to write my own doctor's note many times. And every time I gotta write my own doctor's note, the story, I do too much. The story's like unbelievable. Like usually a doctor's note is like 2 sentences, because doctors don't even want to do it, but sometimes employers or schools require it. But then I would be doing, oh man, I'd be doing too much. I'd be like, oh, what a brave boy. I can't believe he's making it through, you know? Don't just go easy on him. Applaud him for his courage. It's very important that you understand what's happening and what could happen next as a result of it. So often our lawmakers, and even some of us with the best of intentions, address things as they happen. We don't cut them off ahead of time. Like I watch the things that happen with ICE, and they're not cops. They're these federal agents that are there to kidnap and disappear people. That is the point. It's the entire reason that Renee Good isn't with us. And it is more than fitting that these people, that this administration would be the enemy of good. Like, you're watching it happen. And there's a sort of like collective trauma around it, because it's just happening over and over again. It happens every time that you watch it. And I don't know, it reminds me that it's important to choose as much family as you can. You choose to protect your family. Choose to protect people that when you were born you had no relation to, but you found each other. There's nothing more important. Because when they didn't see Nikki the first time, they went ahead, spin the block, let's go back around, shot through. They do the same thing to us. They do the same thing to us all the time. Several years removed, but not a mile away from where George Floyd died. And what happened then? We marched, we protested, we begged, worked as much as we could for some sort of change, and then several years later, they spin the block, right? They took, and they'll take as much as they can, take as much as you let them. And look, there are people, right? There are people who will never see your side of things. There are people who are not working for you. They work for whatever corporation funds them. They work for whatever lobbyist gives them the most money. But the people that you vote for, the people that you put in power, it is important now more than ever that you stay on their neck. You stay on them. Because when things like this happen and there's this sort of like rhetoric around, you see how people feel one way or the other, and you see politicians try to do their spin. Obviously, there's a way that we expect everybody to fall, but it's important to remember that usually ICE funding is bipartisan. So you only control the people that you vote for, but you got to stay on them. You never let up. Being a public official should be a headache. I genuinely, it depends on who it is, but I usually hate to see him smile. I'm like, why are you having a good day? Because you wonder, you see these videos of people just going about their life or trying to do the right thing, being violently met by ICE agents. There's always a narrative to fall back on later, even when the narrative is a lie, even when it gets disproven. There's always some sort of narrative to fall back on. And it makes you wonder, why would anybody even join up? Why would anybody join this thing? And then you see, it's like, okay, economically tough times, signing bonus, maybe I've been picked on my entire life, and now I get a gun, maybe. They tell me that I run this area, I can go wherever I want, I can do whatever I want, finally have some power, and you see what they do with it. You watch what happened. And it's important to remember that you can choose family. You can choose the people that you stick your neck out for. You can choose the people that you protect that mean as much to you as your own life. You can choose people. And it's important to keep making those choices daily. The stronger you make those choices, the stronger the bond is, the less that they have. Because remember, it's not as if ICE is some sort of army or something. They actually have wildly low numbers. That's why they need the police to come back them up everywhere they go. That's why all it takes is being pelted with snowballs and they leave. It was snowballs. It was snowballs in Minnesota. Snowballs in Minnesota is basically the weather conditions. So that's. And so when you watch what happens, it's important that we as people take it upon ourselves as best as we can. As much as we can sacrifice, because everybody can't take on the same amount of burden. I understand that, but as much as you can do, you do it and you make a better world. That's the way forward, This was not the first ICE-related shooting. This was not the first ICE-related death. And it's not just going to go away. I think about those kids that are left behind now and how it's important that they be chosen as family to take them in. Because you watch that video, you watch everything that happened. You can watch people litigate all they want. But once again, you're talking about people who are arguing for the legality versus people who are arguing the morality, They 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 did what they did because they knew that they could. You know what I mean? And it's important that people left behind, like that child, those children, they become our responsibility. Because make no mistake, they took our sister. Do you see how a gang works? Well, to be here. Thank y'all so much for having me, and Happy New Year. You know, it's we're doing another New Year. It's funny. Okay, it's hard to know who to say Happy New Year to, because some people already seem like they're not having a great one. Like you'll see somebody and be like, I'm gonna let this one go. Being here for New Year's was great. I went with my girlfriend and some friends, and we had a great time. And then it was midnight, and so a little while after midnight, about like 12:03. I don't know if you can tell from looking at me, but I'm not like fun. So 3 minutes after midnight, I was like, oh, okay, I think I'm gonna go home. And so I started walking home. And one of the wildest things about a new year is that it sneaks up on you in a way that you would think stops happening. As you get older, you're like, you're not gonna get me this time. I'm gonna be ready for you. And then it's over. And there's a whole nother year. And there's things you wish you could leave behind in the new. You didn't have time to like fix who you were for the new year. Whenever they say like new year, new me, it's two sides of that coin. It's a new year. The year did its part. Now you have to be a new person. There's so many things you wish you could leave behind. Like, it would be great if a new year meant there were just no more bad habits. Like the bad habits melted off. They were like 2025 things. And now in 2026, you just don't even think to do those things anymore. That's not one of your habits at all. I was walking back to the Airbnb, and I saw this guy crossing paths with me. And I was, in my head, I was like, maybe I should say Happy New Year. The year's 5 minutes old. I was even about to say it, but as I'm passing this guy, as we cross paths, I just hear this guy to himself go, no, 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 no. And holding his stomach so tight, no, 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 no. And I knew he wished he could have left it in 2025. I've been having a great time eating here, because y'all forget, y'all take for granted. I don't even know everyone in here, but I know what I'm saying is true. You take for granted that your food is food. And like, your food is food. I live in the US. I live in America, where the food is food shaped. One thing I will say for the food in America, it will always be the shape of food that you're expecting. And we've come out with new shapes. We have new shapes for food. You'll want chicken. Let's have some chicken. Great, we've made a chicken nugget for you. Okay, I'm still familiar with those. Will it be like a little clump of meat with some breading around it, grilled up, or will it be deep fried, nice and delicious? No, this one will look like a dinosaur. Is it dinosaur meat? No, it's chicken. Or at least we say it's chicken, but it's dinosaur-shaped meat. All the food will be the right shape it's supposed to be, in the shape of the food that you think you're buying. But when you eat it, you're like, you got me. This isn't food. We literally have a show where we shape all manner of things and ask the question, is this cake? That should give you an indication of what the food is like. all the food here is like food. And don't get me wrong, you have your junk food. You do. You have plenty of your own junk food, and that's very cute, okay? I've had this conversation, I've even had this argument with plenty of Australians, and they'll be like, no, we have our unhealthy food. I'm like, no, that's not what I said. That's not what I was talking about. You have your junk food, which is it's a fascinating attempt at junk food. But that's like telling an American that you also have junk food is like meeting LeBron and being like, I play too. Like, you can't even begin to understand the levels of junk food we have reached. We are the king. And not to come over here and tell you that America's better at something and be a real American about it, but like we are very good at junk food. We're so good, we're dying. We're dying in droves. We can't stop dying, but we also can't stop eating because we went in the lab and we were like, they won't be able to say no to this concoction. Your food is like food. That's crazy. Full food. Like it has, like you can feel nutrients hitting. You can feel, okay, look. I know this is a bad example, but you know like when somebody does drugs on TV and then because they don't have enough time to show what actual drug use looks like, or maybe they don't want to, they make it look like drugs happen like that, like immediately, like someone does the drug and then they're like, ugh, like it's... Okay, that is what your food is like. When I'm eating it, I'm like, that is what wow. I had steak here. I had steak. And I felt like, after I ate the steak, I felt like I could fight. Not as in I was angry. I felt like I knew how. Because so much protein had gone into my body. And like actual protein, not the protein that we put out. Because in the US, we have lots of protein. We love making everything protein-packed. Protein will make up for how much sugar we also put in the thing. So then we'll have protein on protein on protein. So if you eat this, that's all your protein for the day. And you want to be big and strong, don't you? And then you eat that protein and then they'll make a commercial a couple months later where they're like, hey, did you eat this protein? We're so sorry. That was poison. That was like actual rat poison that we put in there. It was the same color as our protein mix. And so you understand how mistakes get made. But here I was eating, wow. Whoa. In the U.S., we have foods that you don't have here that are like junk food, but we also have flavors that y'all don't have here because you have like laws out of self-respect, and so the law here, it'll be against the law to bring that flavor here. Someone, and I don't even know if they're here, then congratulations to you, more power to you. But I imagine they're not even here. Someone from a long time ago was like tasting things from other places, and then they were like, "That's good. No, what's that? Oh, that's great. Yeah, bring that." And then they had some flavors from the U.S. and they must have died. They must have promptly died because you don't have those flavors here, and they're like illegal to bring here. But we love them in the U.S. A child's favorite flavor won't even be a flavor that you're thinking of. You'll think of something like spice. You might even think of a seasoning. Like, oh, paprika. A little bit of pepper. Oh, this is so good. No, I'm not. You're talking about like seasoning from food. You're used to food. It's not what I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about flavors that you could never imagine because they don't exist in nature, because they're not real. Use your imagination. I'm talking about flavors that don't make any sense. You will talk to a child in the U.S. and their favorite flavor is blue. I don't mean blueberry. I don't mean a natural, the hot pink but blue color that's usually just on posters for movies. That will be the color of a food, and that color has a flavor, and that will be that child's favorite flavor because they've never been introduced to food. And then, as someone from the U.S., as an American, you travel, and you find out that we have this horrible reputation for being like loud and boisterous, dumb stuff. And everyone, I don't care where you're from, everyone has at least some shred of national pride where they want to be like, no, we are not. I am not the worst of us that you may have met. Right? Everyone has that thing. And so you're inclined, when you hear these rumors about the US, you're inclined to be like, no, I read all the time. I read and I'm perfectly easy to get along with and everything. What would make you think that we're what would make you think that we're this way? And then they'll tell you a story that once you hear it, you can tell that they're telling the truth. They'll tell you a story that breaks your heart a little bit. They'll tell you about meeting like a nice American family that actually were, well-behaved, perfectly pleasant people, but they seemed a bit dumb. And you're like, why are you judging them? That's a prejudice that you think they're dumb. And then they'll tell you, oh, well, we had a conversation and, the mom and the dad were perfectly nice people, but then we turned and, the child was trying to get his mom's attention and we said hello. And he said hello, and then, they were talking. And the kid was looking up and saying, Mommy, can I have something? And then we asked the kid, oh, yes, what would you like? What's your favorite? And the child was like, my favorite flavor is blue. And as soon as you hear that, you're like, yep, that definitely happened. That 100% happened. We make attempts at food. We still have the fruits and vegetables for sale in the U.S. They're there. You can buy, if you went, you could buy them. You would see them there. And you would even think, oh, this is just, you would walk in to a grocery store and you'd be like, this is just like a Kohl's. Look, it's basically a Woolworths. And then you'll bring the produce home and you'll eat it because they can't fool you forever. And you'll take a bite of like a blueberry. I remember when I had my first blueberry of this trip and my first blueberry in Australia, period. Because I've been several times now. And I had my first blueberry and I was like, wow, whoa. It makes you want to strangle someone for keeping the secret of blueberries from you. Everybody walking around all nonchalant. Smiling, acting like the blueberries here aren't good. I see you keeping secrets. You thought you could get it past me? Had a blueberry here and I was like, jeez. What is, oh, wow. Did that thing where you don't want the food to be over. I did that weird thing where, I bought several blueberries. I didn't buy just one blueberry. So it's like, I don't know why I was like Oliver twisting it, but like it, bought this blueberry and then I was just, I was scared to have another one. Because I was like, what if that was the best blueberry? What if that one was the best though? And the next one is gonna taste like the ones I'm used to. I had another one, and the other one was crispier. It was tighter. Because this is the thing. This is what's crazy that you take for granted. Y'all put your produce out when it's like ready. Don't let the U.S., anyone in the U.S. but me, I'm the only one your secret is safe with. Don't let them come over here and find out that you put out the avocado when it's ready. That's not what's happening in the U.S. I'll tell you about it in a second. But the blueberry, it was tight. It fought me a little. I put blueberry in my mouth and tried to start chewing. Blueberry over here being coy. It was like, No. What are you doing? Okay. That's not what's happening. In the U.S., you have a blueberry, and it is blueberry shaped. They play a mean game. It's blueberry shaped. It's even, you pick it up, it's even blueberry weight, and then you pop it in your mouth and you start chewing, and you're like, this is a nipple. There's no way that it has no give to it. I'm still chewing. This is crazy. The avocados here, the fact that you can buy it and say, you could eat it that day. You could not. You could save a day. In the U.S., we do a thing with our avocados where we put them out as if they're gonna be food. And then it's a lottery that you can't possibly win of which avocado will be a ripe avocado. Because there are some avocados where you feel it and you're like, okay. And then there's the little test you can do. Like, if you press, just give it a little bit of push with your thumb. And if it pushes too easy, it's a little bit overripe. And if it has no push, then you might as well give it a year. I've had a couple of avocados here where I can admit they were a little tough, but still they were like ready. It was like they were put out with some sort of care. But the avocados in the U.S., you buy one, and you're like, all right, I like to gamble. Let's play. And then you bring it home, and one of two things happens. Either you cut it with a knife, and you open it up, and you know how it has the seed in the middle. It will all be as hard as the seed, the whole seed. In fact, the first time I bought avocado in the U.S., I was living on my own, and there were a bunch of foods and a bunch of produce that I had never tried until I was out on my own, right? And so I remember buying an avocado and bringing it back and trying to cut into this avocado. You would think I was cutting the kitchen counter because it not only did it have like no give to it, but by the time I was done, I had actually cut through the whole avocado because the whole avocado was as tough as the seed. Or the second thing will happen. The second thing, which is you bring the avocado home, you put it on the counter, and it disintegrates in front of you. It gets so soft in front of you that you go to cut it, and it's like, no need, and it opens up. And you see a tiny demon's face. A little whisper of vapor goes up. And you lost. No, never take for granted the food that you have. This is real food. I couldn't understand. I can understand being vegan in the U.S. because you probably should. I can understand being vegan in the U.S. because being vegan in the U.S. is like a self-preservation because they're telling you. Sometimes they'll tell you, we've actually loosened a bunch of regulations around what we can feed the animal. So, for instance, in the U.S., there are some pigs that are straight up fed sawdust to stretch the food that they are fed. So it's like sawdust, they cut it with whatever they're feeding them. So then when you eat it, you're like, oh, there's no wonder it tastes like splinters, you know? And here, y'all are like, oh, no, we should eat quality meat. And that quality meat, I have not been to a farm in Australia, but I've passed a couple, and it looks like a good life. I feel like it'd be very hard to be vegan here because you're eating good meat. This is very good meat, but all this meat has a story. Every burger could have its own Babe trilogy. You know what I mean? That's what happens when you eat good meat and it's treated well. It tastes good because it was good. That was a good dude that you. Oh, he was courageous. He was good to his friends and everything. That's why meat's so supple, you know. In America, you're like, no, I could tell this meat also, it not only did it have a hard life, but it probably wasn't a good person either. You could tell this chicken was racist or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, something. Even the animals has been an adjustment. I'm sure so many people come and visit and talk to you about like, oh, your animals. It's all terrifying. How do you do it? How do you get by with the fact that like everything can kill you? Y'all just don't care, you know. And it is weird what is after you here, you know. Like I saw a spider here. Don't do that. Don't do that. I saw a spider here, and it's crazy. This is backwards, by the way. Every science book in the U.S. or fairy tale I've read goes the opposite of how it goes here. Because y'all's biggest spider that has, like, personality. Your biggest spider that's over here just floating in front of you and legs open. I don't know if this actually happened or if it happened out of fear in my head that I was filling in the blanks and stuff like that, but I could swear I heard it. It was in front of me. Like, yeah, I mean, like it had a chuckle like an uncle. You know? That one you don't need to worry about. Y'all will walk up to that one, let it crawl in your hand, open a door, and toss it out. That's crazy. I need to understand how opposite of every law of human fear that goes against. Meanwhile, the smallest, the tiniest, not even worth mentioning. Little, you could barely see it. That's the one that bites you and you explode. You. I've watched it happen. I was watching this nature documentary, and this dude, it's funny because maybe it wasn't a nature, actually, okay, to be fair, that was, I don't know, it was probably, I don't know if racist is the right word, but it was probably bigoted of me to be watching this Australian guy talking and see spiders and assume it was a nature documentary. He may have just been living his life, but like, there was a huge spider. There was a huge, and it was in his face too. And the cameraman was following him, and it caught right up to him because he turned and it was right there, right? And it was over. Right? And then he went, and then moved out of the way. They kept walking. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know he was the bravest man that ever lived. And then this is like maybe like 10 minutes later in the doc, he's talking. I don't even remember what he was talking about, but he's talking. And then he goes, ah! They zoom in, he moves out of the way. The tiniest, barely worth mentioning, smallest spider is smeared on the wall, and then the camera goes back to him, and he's like, I was like, this doesn't make any sense at all. This is completely unfair. Oh, this is sad. Even from what I've seen, like this kangaroo situation. Why didn't you warn anybody? Why didn't you tell anybody? Every single kangaroo has been to jail. Every single one of them. Why are y'all acting? Y'all exported the idea of kangaroos like they were just this fun little animal that loved to hop back on its tail and box a little. That was bad on your part. You should take some responsibility for that. I'm not gonna lie. That can't be our fault that we all thought that they all smiled. Like that's every picture of a kangaroo ever. The mom smiling, the little one popping out of the pouch like. Meanwhile, you come to Australia and the kangaroos are over here. Every kangaroo looks at you like you just said something you shouldn't have said about its mother. That's insane. You didn't tell anybody that they had claws. This is... Because y'all love to play these pranks on people who come visit. You love to talk about like drop bears and all this stuff like that. Y'all, forget the drop bear. You already did it with the kangaroo. Americans are gonna come over here like, oh, there's one. Give me a high five, throat out. Nobody told us how strong these things were. The first time I even saw a kangaroo that was like real, that was like you know what I mean? Like the kangaroo, the way that y'all would see a kangaroo and keep driving. That one of those kangaroos, the first time I ever saw one was the one thing that you let slip. The one video you let slip to the rest of the world. The one. Where that guy, his dog was with the kangaroo. You didn't tell us that kangaroos love drowning dogs. That sounds like an attribute you'd want to get out there. Imagine if America just sent out an animal into the world, like an American like cow, right? An American cow, this is a prime American cow right here. And we just let people come see it. And just never told them details that would be very important to know if you were gonna meet a cow. Imagine if we were like, oh yeah, cow, yeah. You can go pet them if you want. Oh, by the way, they do stand up, so. Just be mindful of that, you know, when you walk up to them and everything. No, this kangaroo's over here. Kangaroos love to drown dogs. As a friend, let me help you with something. I understand that you are used to these wild and dangerous animals, but some aspects of what they like to do are deeply troubling. And so for you to not communicate first that the kangaroo, which we only know through y'all, loves to drown dogs. Do better, all right? Imagine if I had a friend who I was introducing you to, right? This is Stefan. Stefan's my buddy. I think you two will get on great. And then, years later, I'm like, oh, by the way, Stefan loved to drown dogs. I think it would change how you feel about Stefan. But anyway, this kangaroo got the dog. And it's like, oof, what a great day. I'm about to do what I do best. And then this guy walks up, and I didn't know, okay, because of how the video played out, I don't actually know or understand how big this man is. Because he walks up to the kangaroo, and the kangaroo is like, That's odd. Usually people see me do this and they run away. And he walks up, must be his dog, or maybe he just doesn't want to see murder that day. And admittedly, the first video that I saw was on silent, so I don't know if he yelled anything or not, but he definitely had the posture and the shoulders of somebody who might have been yelling, which I didn't know that kangaroos understood English, but yelling, and then kangaroo sort of bows up a little bit, and then you saw it, he punched that kangaroo in the face. Punched the kangaroo in the face, and the kangaroo went. This has never happened to me before. And I'm just saying, like, as a species that boxes, he should have covered. You know what I mean? Like, he should have seen it coming. From memory, it was just a straight left. He should have been able to dodge that. Oh, got all these animals. I got one. This is the other issue that y'all have. I don't know if you can do anything about this, but this is just me noticing, okay? Slight critique. A lot of the animals that you have here that are adorable and love to murder for fun are covered in fur that makes them that much more adorable. So you'll see like a wombat, and you'll think, friend? Hey, buddy. Hey, how are you? And then also, no one told you. You look at a koala. Once again, y'all just like let stuff slide. That should be the first thing you hear about this animal. You see a koala and you're like, wow, this is the white people panda. This is truly incredible. Look at this adorable animal. Look at it sleeping. Loves bamboo, I think. I don't know. Went to a outdoor, I don't know what you would even call it, because it wasn't like a national park or anything, but we went to this place that had koalas just chilling in the trees, and you could walk by and take a little picture of the koala and keep walking and everything. And I saw this koala turned and looked at me, and I was like, oh. It was like melting my heart, genuinely. I was like, oh. It was like meeting a dry penguin. It was like, oh, it's happening right now. Oh, I've seen it in the books, and now it's here. And then as soon as it turned to me, it was like, why? It's the people of Australia. With all of your tourism efforts, and with all of the digital footprint of koalas, did you not warn anyone that animal is a person living under a spell cast by a witch? It's the only way to describe what I heard. But it's just normal. I'll tell you one thing. I used to live in Chicago, and I'll tell you about this night that I had. It's not the whole night. It's more just as in one instance where I used to do these open mics all over Chicago. I would go anywhere that there was an open mic. And I would do these like what they would call like mixed open mics as well, where it was like music, comedy, magic. You could do anything. And then I would go to the comedy open mics. And then every once in a while, if it was a storytelling open mic or maybe poetry, I'd ask, like, I would tell them, I would warn them that I was going to do comedy. I wouldn't just act like the whole thing was a poem. And then they would let me up, usually. Every once in a while, it'd be places like, no, we only do this thing, whatever. It's fine. But I remember going to this part of Chicago I had never been to before. And I was still new to the city, so I didn't know my way around or anything. And so I do the open mic. An open mic could last anywhere from an hour to like 4, depending on how many people wanted to go up and how many people were willing to stay and watch the people that were going up. And so I was over here in a part of Chicago I had never been in before, trying to find the train again, because I used my phone on Google Maps to find where the open mic was. But because I walked so long and then took a bus and then walked some more, I had no idea where the train was going to be to get me home. And it was already 1 a.m. And so I was beside myself because I was like, okay, I got to get up at 5. What have I done to myself? And so I'm looking for the train. I'm walking around and put it into Google Maps, and I'm confused because it's like it says like this stop has maintenance. So I'm like, okay, I guess I gotta go to the next one. And I'm walking, and as I'm walking, I see this guy that is across the street from me in this abandoned lot, and he's standing in front of a dog, and he's going, "What do you want? What do you want though? Like what is it?" And I've just never seen someone yelling at a dog from a place of divorce. Do you know what I mean? Like, because it wasn't like, what do you want? Like when a baby's crying or something, you're at your wits' end. It was like, I'm done. What do you want? What will make you happy? And anyway, he's like, what do you want? What do you want? And then the dog, this has happened so fast, the dog just zooms towards him and bites his crotch, right? I guess that's what it wanted. And every man in here knows, every man that hopefully will never be in this situation knows, though, that there's no way to effectively defend once bitten. That's it. But it bit him, and so now he's like, ah! He grabs the dog's collar, and they're both just like wiggling around, right? It's a lot of this. And he's screaming, and maybe you're wondering if or when I helped, and I didn't. I didn't help because, look, the dog, hopefully that dog only got beef with him. But one thing we know about this dog is it bites crotches. Right now, I'm a street away. The only way I could be safer is if I was at home. Like, why would I get involved? But it was crazy to watch because he's like, oh, we're right? And then right as this dude turns like this, right? There's a car that drives up, jumps the curve a bit, and hits him from behind. Okay? It doesn't hit him that hard. It was already slowing down, but it hits him to where his legs go up. And the dog lets go, the dog runs off, and then a guy gets out of the car and looks exactly like the guy that got bit. Like, he gets out of the car, and I'm like, it's him. It's him not bit. It felt like a moment from a movie about time travel. where maybe this is what went wrong in that man's life. Maybe he got bit and then he was never able to make it work with the love of his life because she was like, I love you, but you bit. Like, we gotta be friends. So then he went back in time, got a car that decent. It was like, I don't know, looked like Kia Sorento or something like that. But then drives up and it's like, oh wait, I focused so much on the time travel that I didn't plan for this moment, what I would do. And I'm late too, because I was supposed to catch myself before I got bit, but now I'm being bit. Maybe the only thing to do, maybe the only thing that'll break that dog's grip is if I hit myself with that car. And so he hit himself from behind with the car, and then the dog let go. Mission accomplished, I guess. Clearly, what actually happened is that guy had a twin. That has to be it. But even then, even a twin, why would they hit you with the car? Maybe they're not close. I don't know. The entire reason I told you this, the whole reason I told you everything I told you, is because in that moment, being across the street, seeing this thing happen, which took like 0.5 seconds, like I swear I saw him, what do you want? Boom, right? Like it all happened together. Maybe his brother was already coming to pick him up and the dog, maybe he didn't know the dog. Maybe his brother was always gonna hit him with the car. I have no idea. The whole reason I'm telling you this is that being a spectator on the other side of the street from that thing must be what it's like to be an Australian watching America. Because just like me, it's not like y'all are coming over to help or anything. And also, just like me, you're like more confused than you clearly are concerned. For you, it's like a show. You're going home. This is entertaining. I'm the guy in the middle. What do you want? Boom. That's your show. That's my life. That's what life is like. I don't know if you've been keeping up. Why would you? Why would you if you didn't have to? If you didn't have to. I know that you keep up because y'all know about the world and stuff. Y'all have like genuine interest in other countries and people and everything, but I just, wow. If we knew you were watching. Now, because I came here, I watched some of your news thinking, all right, look, nobody's perfect. Let's get some dirt on Australia. I watched plenty, and wow, this is. What are you doing over here? You know what I mean? Like some of the things that make it into the news, I'm like, this is an email. This is. Like every country has its problems, don't get me wrong. Like every country has its problems, its tragedies and everything. I'm not saying nothing happens or that there aren't issues. I'm just saying that most of what is put out there to stay in the know you gotta understand, it's almost like speaking a different language because I will read the news here and it'll be like, Kath doesn't like shopping. She hates going to the grocery. She's already planned all her 2026 meals. Meanwhile, in the U.S., our local news, not a national story, local news will be man set on fire by man on fire. With hug. This is crazy. Yeah. No, this is very bad. In case you're not aware, our president, he is definitely now, as one could infer without any doubt, with complete certainty, in at least every other page of the Epstein files. Like it's so bad. This is very bad. I know it's hard for you to relate because over here, if someone was like in something that doesn't even rise to the level of the Epstein files, right? Like y'all kick people out for like missing a comma in a memo. Like it's, y'all like, this is unbecoming. Meanwhile, in the U.S., okay, so the Epstein files, in case you're not aware, there was a dude named Jeffrey Epstein who was, no, some people don't know. Some people, no, for real, especially here. Some people don't know. Some people, like, I know that as a country, y'all keep up with the goings-on of other countries and everything, but I'm telling some individual people here will not know. Kath doesn't know. There's no way that Kath knows about the Epstein files. I refuse to believe that we live in a world where Kath is up on all current events in the U.S., but just hates grocery shopping so much. She need all her time to plan all of her meals for 2026, a year that just started, a year that's barely unfolded. Okay, in case you're not aware, Jeffrey Epstein is a horrible person, criminal, the devil, basically the devil, and was leading, or at least the biggest part of this trafficking ring, this cabal of deviants that moved with sort of impunity. He had an island, a lot of bad, horrific things went down there, and he was also, without doubt, Jeffrey Epstein was also, without a doubt, one could not just infer, but pretty much say with real conviction that he was Donald Trump's best friend, like his best friend ever, like BFF, FF, all the F's, BFF, forever and ever. Is very bad. It's bad, and so they have been fighting. And when I say they, I mean like the House Oversight Committee, I mean Democrats, I mean generally people in the public of the U.S. have been fighting to get the Epstein files released. In fact, ironically enough, Donald Trump ran on being someone who would release the Epstein files. Now, he did not say those things specifically. The people around him were talking about how he was going to be the most transparent president of all time, and he would release things like the Epstein files because there was a big push to get people energized around something that could be controlled, like a sort of narrative, and then that could get people out and voting, and then maybe they would just do away with it whenever the time called for it. But what they didn't account for is that people actually care if there are billionaires running around all over the world doing like a trafficking ring. And so, I know, who knew? And so even though part of his platform was being the type of person that would release everything, as soon as he's in office and they're actually talking about releasing it, everybody's like, uh-oh, that's basically his diary. Like, we can't just... And so Trump fights it for months. I mean, the House is like kind of closed over it for a while. They're actually reps that they won't swear in because they don't want to have the votes. I'm saying this, the Republicans don't want the actual votes to be had for the release of the files. Finally, that happens, though. Finally, they vote on a Transparency Act that would release the Epstein files, and it gets passed off from the House to the Senate, and then the president has to sign. So it gets passed to the Senate. The Senate actually, crazy enough, signed it so fast, I don't even know if it touched the desk. Like it just sort of floated in the room like a cartoon piece of paper, and then it landed on Trump's desk, and Trump gotta sign it. He has to sign it, because if he doesn't sign it, it sort of stops with him, and it makes him look super guilty. And he already looks very guilty. He already looks really guilty because, okay, I'll back up for a second. Remember what I said about like you eating McDonald's in the US and it not being food. It's like not food. You know what I mean? And then you eat it and then you're like, ooh, I feel terrible. I feel like somebody fought me in me. Like it's crazy. And then you have to go to the bathroom and then your whole body is like, we're never doing this again. But then you do because it's addictive. And I know that like McDonald's here is not the same as McDonald's in the U.S. I know that because admittedly I've had some, and it doesn't do that to you. Like you actually I bit the food like it was gonna do it. I was like. But then I heard, and I know it's a rumor. I know it's a rumor. There's nothing that confirms it. But I got nervous because I ate McDonald's here. And I heard about Scott Morrison, right? And I was like, oh no, maybe it's not different. Maybe, because that's exactly what happens in the US. But anyway, Trump was over here trying to stop the Epstein files from, coming out through word of mouth, through hitting up people in private conversations and everything. And then it finally lands on his desk. He's got to sign it. Because he's done a very bad job of looking like he has nothing to do with it, mainly because he's basically been screaming over and over, I don't have anything to do with it. Like, that's not... It makes you seem very guilty. So he signs it. So then the Department of Justice, which if you visit the U.S. and you are talking about the Department of Justice, you are allowed to go, Department of Justice? Like you can, because we aren't even sure. So then the Department of Justice had 30 days to release the Epstein files, which is crazy. Like, this is crazy. This thing that we thought would never see the light of day is supposed to come out by the law that the president signed in 30 days. And so then they waited until the last day. And they said they released it early, but by 10 minutes of the deadline at midnight. But they release it, and the head of the Department of Justice comes out and it's like, there's actually so many files that we can't even release them all today, which is against the law, because the law was for all of them. But we can't even release them today. We're going to release some today and some tomorrow and then some in the spring. They really tried to release the Epstein files like a season of Stranger Things. It was insane. And then, never mind the fact that as they're trying to redact all this stuff, which is what was happening, the holdup was that they were trying to redact anything with Trump's name in it, or maybe people in the party that would look bad for them. They're still in office and everything, so they're doing all this redacting. So when they finally release the files, a lot of it is redacted to the degree which is just ridiculous. It'll be like a picture on a page and the whole page is black, but the whole thing was transparency. You have to tell us what's in there, and you have what's in there. But then they did a bad job of redacting. They did such a bad job redacting that some of the stuff with Trump's name on it got through. And then they tried to redact it the next day, but that's not how redacting works. We know now. You showed us. In fact, they did such a bad job redacting, because this is what happened as well. There were so many files that they actually begged people to work overtime for like a month and a half leading up to what was supposed to be the release, so that way they could redact enough and make sure they were all squared away, so when they released it, they released everything. But that didn't happen because there weren't enough hours in each day leading up to the release. I need to be clear about something. There were not enough hours for the entire team of people that they had redacting. Do you know how bad things must be if there are not enough hours in a month for a team of people to blacken out enough things to exonerate the president? Anyway, they finally released it, and they did such a bad job of redacting that some of the files were redacted in like Word. And so they basically copy and paste to a Word document, highlighted it in black, and then put it back for the... So if you were to copy and paste some of the Epstein files into Word and unhighlight it, you could read what the Department of Justice was trying to redact. Which is so wholly embarrassing as a country. And it's all because Trump has done such a bad job of trying to cover up that he's not in the Epstein files. Scott Morrison did a better job. Imagine if Scott Morrison was over here. I was never at McDonald's. You'd be like, oh, it definitely happened then. That's... Why is he screaming? Yes, it happened. It's so embarrassing because it's to redact stuff we know. That was his best friend. It would be like trying to redact any relationship between peanut butter and jelly. I know y'all... I know y'all don't roll with peanut butter and jelly like that. I know that. I know y'all are like, that's not food. But like, it... But to us it is. I mean, you know what I'm scared of? I'm actually terrified for you if y'all started eating peanut butter and jelly, because it would be real peanuts. It'd be jelly from like a fruit. And I don't know if any one man is ready for all that power. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But this is bad. It's about as bad as getting bit in the crotch. And then hit by a car. And a whole country of people just watching. Because I will say that there are people, I know there's like murmurings and there's attempts and there's the schools of thought here that would like to bring more of what America does. I'm just telling you what I've heard and what I've seen, and I'm just saying, as someone who lives there, don't. I am begging you, don't do it, all right? Because look, I understand. Every country is gonna have its problems, and every place is gonna have things that feel like they can be solved by taking a piece of what another place is doing. But in those moments, you really gotta look at the bigger picture. What is life like for people here? What is life like for people in the US, you know? Once again, you take it for granted You eat food. You eat food. And there's a general belief system that seems to, from the people that I've talked to of differing opinions, both Aussies in the US and Australian citizens here, there is this general attitude, general mindset of the things that a government, a country owes its people. And those things are, I think they're a big part of why this is a great place to live. And I think that tossing them to the side for a little bit more of what America has, which is, I will say, a game. America has a game. You can play this game, and you can walk away with nothing, or you can walk away with millions. Spoiler alert, you won't walk away with millions. But the belief that you might walk away with millions allows you to give up things consistently. Give up your privacy, give up your data, give up your rights, give up the things that are owed to you by your country, by your government, as a taxpayer and as a citizen. And that's something I would never want to see happen here. There are beautiful things in the US. I'm not just trashing the US all over the world. I'm just being very honest about it. But I just see people who have a genuine belief and what seems like an understanding of what it takes to take care of their neighbor. And when you take care of your neighbor, then eventually you are taking care of your country. You know, I understand there are things that I can't understand about living here. I'm not acting like I know the ins and outs of liberal versus labor or anything. I just know that when it comes to a quality of life, value for money, and being valued by your country as a citizen, there are a lot of things that you are doing right. I understand that you strive for more, and you should. You should keep fighting for the best possible world to live in, the best country to live in, nonstop, all the time. It doesn't mean that you can just pat yourself on the back and quit. It just means that what you're doing is working, whether you know it or not. Traveling opens your eyes to how people are living in different parts of the world. And I'm telling you, as someone who has started traveling and doesn't want to stop, I'm seeing all the ins and outs of places, and yes, what they may be lacking, but what they're really doing right. And I'm telling you, when I meet people, when I talk to people, for all of its problems and for all the things that I hope get better about living here, with living here, you're doing a lot right. A whole lot. And you can tell that you're doing a whole lot right because Kath is in the news. Melvin, y'all been amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all.